Hello and welcome to Melly Moo Paper Crafting. Today I wanted to show you a card I've made with some clearly besotted stamps and dies, including some of the new release. This is the card that I'm going to make. It's a birthday card, ideal for like a nephew or a younger member of the family. And it's a kinetic card, so the rocket actually moves. So it's a penny slider card, but in a circular shape. So, and when you tip the card, I don't know if you can see that, the rocket spins around. I'm starting with a piece of A4 black card. It's 250 GSM. 300 would be good, anything less is a bit too flimsy. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it at it's the A6 line on my cutter, which is basically in mil. It's 14.8 and a tiny bit. So cut it once that way and take off that bit. You need that for later, so don't throw it away. And then turn it around, and again, if you cut it on the A6 line or 14.8 and a bit, you end up with two squares that are just short of 15 centimetres. Is, if we look at the original card, I'm going to do the starry background. So to do the starry background, I'm going to use the Many Thanks Clearly Besotted Dump Set, and I actually want just these two stars here. So it's this outline star first, and I'm going to stamp this in Platinum Planet. Okay, so make sure I'm on the right side of the card, which is slightly shinier. And then I'm not going to try and go in the same pattern as I went last time. The tiny little one. And this time, just to add a bit of depth, I'm going to stamp in Starlight Black, which is black, but it has a tinge of silver to it. And these will just be a bit more subtle, these stars, so they're not quite as obvious. Okay. So now we've got our background. Just pop that back on there, cleaned up. Okay, now one thing I found about using these blue and Sink pads is they don't dry that fast, so they remain a bit smudgy. So what I've actually decided to do, if you can see on this card, is I've actually smudged the stars intentionally, because I quite like the sort of starry finish. So you have to give it a second or two to dry, and then just give them a bit of a swirl, I find is the best sort of. There we have the background. So that's with the smudging, and that's one without the smudging. Like I say, I personally prefer the smudged finish. Once you've got your starry background, you then need two concentric circle dies. You need them to have a gap that is around about, I'd say, 1 centimetre. Position these dies onto the middle of your starry background. You could either use a magnetic shim, or you could use post-it notes to hold it down. Okay, so I'm just going to go and cut that with my Fiskars fuse, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. My outer circle, I've got my inner circle, and then I've got the one in between. Okay, now you need actually all three, so it's important that you keep them. Okay, this is where we're going back to my other square at this point. Now the first thing you need to do is you need to get a bit of foam tape. Now you could use foam squares, I personally just use foam tape. And you need to put it just a little bit in from the edge all the way around the outside. I've also found, having made a couple of these, that you need a bit of support across the corners. Now do not put this too close to the edge, because that's where your penny is going to be rolling around. So put it just across the edges like this. So you need to stick that to that. Then get your black piece of card. And then this needs to be stuck onto here. So I'll have the fun job of taking off all these backings now. Got my background stuck on here, and it's nice and sturdy. You can see the foam tape on the edges, which is why black might be better, but as I said, I don't have black. The next thing to do is get your inner circle and get it lined up exactly where it needs to sit. And then I'm going to use some wet glue for this because I don't want any edges sticking up. So I'm actually using this Dovecraft Ultimate Craft Glue. It's very quick drying. It's 80p for a pot. It's only a small pot, the 35ml, but I absolutely love it. Lost where it was now. I think it was there. So if you just line that up. The thing to do is put some, for this part, is to put some foam tape on the back of this. Again, you need to do it a little way in. Because your penny needs some room to slide around. So I just put it in a circle, just so there's no edges. Try to make it a complete circle so there's less space for anything to grip onto. And then that is ready to go back onto here after we've made our rocket. Two of the new releases from Clearly Besotted. There is the Blast Off stamp set, which has a rocket and then some texts with it, and there is the Blast Off matching dies. So for the rocket, I'll show the card again here. We're going to do the rocket in the same red and blue, and then I'll show you how to do the flame as well. Okay, so first let's get the rocket. Crash bang. I'm using this stamp press. So if you line that up on here, and I'm using Rocket Red. I kind of had to, really, considering the name. So, line that up. Get my rocket. Put that down on here. Then you just need to line this up. And then for the blue bits, I'm just going to do these on a block. So on here you've got two options. You can fill in the gaps with the stars, or you can do the dots. So I did the stars on this one, so I'll do the same again. So this time I'm using Mediterranean blue. That's my rocket done. Okay, then for the flame, there's my flame. I'll put it over there to dry. Right, so for my flame, if I show you on here, you can see I've kind of made it two-tone. So to do that, you need the outside part of the flame, which is the larger bit. And I'm going to stamp all over that in sunflower yellow. These nice juicy inks. Okay, these are all pigment inks rather than dye. Then you need Rocket Red Gold. You could just use an orangey colour. It's the Rocket Red but with gold in. And then you need to stamp, I think, over the top and then around the edges. That gives you the two-tone effects, and I've got orange and yellow, so I shall stamp that, hoping I can manage to get it in the middle. There we go. Okay, I'll just peel that off, so you can see I've got this two-tone effect. Then there's another stamp that's the flame in the middle. Okay, so this time I'm going to stamp that with the Rocket Gold first, so the same orange. And then I'm going to give it the treatment around the edge with the Pearlescent Poppy. I've used pearlescent paints for these because I think they give a nice shimmery, flamey kind of look. So you can see you get the two-toned colour. It's kind of shimmery. And then just for an added little bit of sparkle, I did put a bit of glitter glue on. So this is just a bit of gold stickles. Okay, so that's my flame. Okay. So the next bit is assembly. Card base, and we have our rocket, and we also have our penny. So if you can see what I mean, the penny doesn't quite fit through the gap, which is exactly what we want. You also need some circular foam pads. First thing you need to do is put your rocket and your flame together. Now I've cut myself a little scrip of card which is 4.5 centimetres long and about 3/4 of a centimetre wide. I'm going to put some of my same Dovecraft glue on, and this is just to give a bit of stability to the rocket and the flame. So if you go about halfway with your flame, hopefully you can't see the white card, and then get your rocket and stick it literally just overlapping. Okay, and as I said, this will dry pretty much instantaneously. So we've now got our rocket and our foam. Then with our penny, we take the foam pads. Now you could use one. I found that using two is better. So these are quite narrow. If you've got chunkier ones, sometimes it's a trial and error. So I'm double stacking those to give myself quite a kind of maybe a 3mm foam pad. And then you put this into the middle of your rocket. Now I found for balance it works quite well if you literally just sit it at the back of your rocket there, and that actually gives you quite nice balance. You need to take the foam off this last piece, foam backing off this last piece. Okay, like so. Alright, and then you need to get your penny and slip it under this part here. So I slip that under there. If I turn it this way, there, I'm going to take my penny and I'm going to slide it under there so it sits in the channel. You get your last piece of the centre, line it up, and then you're going to slip this over the penny as well. So basically the penny is trapped then. So I slide this in here, just line it up with your stars, like so. And now you can see my rocket is actually trapped in that gully. Now, to moment of truth, see if it actually works. The first few times are a bit kind of reluctant. It helps if you bend up the nose and the flames. So let's give it a go, and there we go, we're rolling. If it's not working straight away, I suggest you just kind of keep persevering with it, but it should work in the end. Okay, so that's the penny slider part done. The last bit, if we look at this card here, is the sentiment top and bottom. So we'll have a look at doing those next. I've taken the Basic Banners die collection, and I've cut this square one out of, if you remember, this black strip that was off this piece of your A4 before. So I've got two of those there, which you probably can't see. I'll put them into some white paper and you can see them a bit better. The banner. Then out to the matching stamp set, I'm going to hopefully stamp around the edge. So I'm going back to using my Platinum Planet 2 of my banners. And again, I'll probably give that a bit of a smudge. One of my banners is going to have, on your birthday, going to have a blast. So I'll put the blast on first, like so, and then I'll put the have a lined up next to it. And again, the Platinum Planet. And up in the middle. Okay, there we go. Right, I'm just going to give this a bit of a smudge around the edges. Just a little one. Just so it softens it down ever so slightly. I say you don't have to do this bit. That's just my preference. Then, if we bring our card back in, because of the tail moving around on the rocket, we can't have these sticking up. So I'm going to use my Dovecraft quick drying glue again, and I'm going to go right into the corner.